Good morning. Thank you for coming out and joining us on the Lehman College 9/11 memorial event. We'll begin our program with Dr. Penny Prince and Professor Osceola with the pianist and vocalist.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for ways above the grave, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrims' dreams that cease beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangerous toils and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Now we all just hum it together.
Thank you. That was beautiful. And welcome back, Dr. Prince. We missed you last year. Today marks the 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. My name is Luis Hotel Rodriguez. I am the director of the Office of Veterans and Military Affairs. I am also a U.S. Army combat veteran. I served in support of Operation Enduring Freedom from 2003 to 2004. I served as a 13 Fox field artillery specialist. I'm sorry, fire support specialist, and provided indirect fires for the artillery and infantry units. September 11, 2001, we can all remember that day like it was yesterday. I was stationed in Fort Wainwright, Alaska. I remember returning back from a run because of the 4-hour difference. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. I remember returning back from a run. After that, having my NCOs yelling at us to go upstairs, get to your full battle rattle, and come on downstairs to meet us downstairs. Full battle rattle just means to get your helmet, get your vest, get your uniform, get your boots on, and get ready to for anything that's to come. After that, we conducted what was called PCCs and PCIs, which means pre-combat inspection and pre-combat checks. 2 years later, I was deployed overseas to Afghanistan. I'm happy to have served proudly, and I'm also honored and humbled to continue to serve our veterans here at Lehman College as they come home from their service post 9/11. Today, as we come together and observe and commemorate, never forget those who gave their all, those who have given, and those who will continue to serve. I now will bring up Dr. Jermaine Wright, Vice President of Student Affairs.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today as we come together to remember and honor the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. A day that has forever changed our nation and the world. My name is Dr. Jermaine Wright, and I serve as Vice President of Student Affairs here at Lehman College. And it is both my honor and solemn duty to stand before you on this day of reflection. 23 years ago, I was a young undergraduate student at Binghamton University, starting my day like any other. Little did I know that that morning would be seared in my memory for the rest of my life. I remember seeing images on my roommate's television, the first plane hitting the tower, and thinking it was a scene in a movie. The reality did not set in until classes were canceled, and I found myself frantically trying to reach loved ones in New York City. The confusion, fear, disbelief were overwhelming, but they were only a fraction of what so many others experienced on that day. On that day 23 years ago, our nation was shaken to its core. The attacks were calculated attempts to break our spirit and sow fear and division. Yet in the face of unspeakable tragedy, we saw the very best in humanity. Strangers helping strangers, first responders running towards danger, and communities rallying together in support and solidarity. We witnessed a nation that, despite the pain and the loss, refused to be broken. Today, we gather not to relive the horrors of the day, but to honor the memory of those lost and to pay tribute to the countless lives of heroism and sacrifice that followed. We remember the innocent lives taken too soon, and we hold in our hearts the families and friends and loved ones forever. We honor the brave first responders who risked and in many cases gave their lives for others, and we recognize the lasting impact on the survivors, the rescuers, and the countless others who continue to carry the physical and emotional scars of that day. Here at Lehman College, we were not untouched by this tragedy. We remember the members of our own community who perished on that day, and we stand with those who we have lost, friends and loved ones. Today, we honor their memories and acknowledge the ongoing strength of their families and friends. And we thank our veterans here at Lehman College who have served their country proudly. Today, we remember so that we will never forget. I'd like to bring up our Director of Public Safety, Fausto Ramirez.
Good morning, everyone. It's hard to believe, like today, the blue sky in and you see maybe sometimes a flame flying low, it's very hard not to forget. Um, Lewis Lewis approached me a couple of weeks ago and everything like that, and told me, Foster, I would like you to share some insight as to what was happening on campus that day, because he honestly told me that I was the only one left, and I kind of looked at him and said, really? I'm sure there's other people still here that remember that day. That day it was a typical morning. Right there, you're getting ready to work and everything like that, drinking your coffee, and the first thing you do is turn on the TV and look at the news to see what's going on and everything like that. And I remember seeing, while I'm getting dressed and all that stuff, the TV showing a hole on the tower, and I'm saying, and they said, oh, a small plane hit the tower, and I'm looking at it. Well, it looks like a big hole for a small thing. So you get ready to work, and then you're driving to work, and then I'm driving down Mashula Parkway, and I'm making the left going onto Paul Avenue where Clinton is at, and then the news came up, a second plane hit. I thought, and then I looked to my right. My wife was with me, and I looked at her. I said, "We're being attacked." Right there. So you rush onto the campus, and to find out what's going on. And the first thing you start thinking is, okay, security mode. I'm in security mode, trying to figure out, what's the next step. What are we going to do on campus? At that time, the campus was open. It was an open campus, and students are coming in, faculty, staff, and everything. I remember getting out the car, and you just started walking around, and you can see some students on the phone, looking, the confusion on their face. Some of them were even crying and everything like that. And a couple of students came to me, our class is going to be canceled today because I want to go home. And I told the student, listen, go home. So I'm trying to look for the administration. We're running around and everything like that. And my first is, okay, we got to secure the perimeter of the campus, but at the same time, let the students, faculty, staff come onto the campus, because this, to me, I start saying this probably will be a safe haven for them, to make them feel secure. So my thinking was, okay, let's make the campus secure for them and everything, and whoever needed support, we're going to be there for them and things like that. So later on in the afternoon, it was decided to close the campus and things like that. So a matter of fact, we also opened up the Apex building for students or anybody that couldn't go home, and they could stay onto the campus. But one thing that stuck with me that day is that when we started closing the campus and everything like that, our former president, Ricardo Fernandez, had told us, don't close up my gate. He parked Schuster around gate 4 and everything, because I don't want the terrorists to think that we're fearful and everything like that. And it stuck to me that day. And I said, you know what? He was right. So to bring it back all together, I'm going to share something personal. During that same week, we were preparing, or we already had prepared for my daughter's Sweet 16. And we were contemplating whether or not to cancel the event, because a lot of emotions and everything like that. But I remember our former president, Ricardo Fernandez, saying, we can't let them win. So we decided to go ahead with the Sweet 16. And before we started, I wrote this little speech like 23 years ago, so I want to share it with you and everything like that. And I'll end it with a small little speech. Okay. This is a time of sorrow for all. This is a time to remind us that we are not invincible, but it's also a time to remember that hope will never die. This is a time to remember our neighbors and loved ones. This is a time to set our petty differences aside and remember our similarities and common interests. This is a time to remember that acts of hatred and cowardice should not and will not go unpunished. This is a time to grieve, but also a time to hold our heads up high and be proud that we're Americans. and I ended it with saying, God, God bless America. So that's my story, a little insight of what happened that day. So thank you. I'd like to call up now President Fernando Delgado to come up to the stage.
So I'm going to start with my recollection because I'm not from New York. So on the morning of 9/11, I lived in Phoenix, 3-hour time difference. I was hastily packing my luggage, fearing the traffic between Gilbert, Arizona and Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, and going through my checklist because I was going to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to do some lectures. Managed to get everything packed, threw it in the car, jumped in the car, put on my favorite CD, Best of the Smiths, Volume 1, and proceeded to head towards the airport, which is about 22 miles away. And as I got on Highway 60, which took us to Interstate 10, I noticed the traffic pattern was a little bit different for that hour in the morning. And while there was a lot of traffic, it wasn't that bad going my way, but it was surprisingly bad coming the opposite way, which was kind of strange because we're supposed to be going towards Phoenix for work, not coming away, because nobody worked the dairy farms and the cotton pastures anymore in Gilbert, Arizona or Mesa, Arizona, because they were being developed into subdivisions. But I didn't think much of it, just a normal day. And then as I made the turn to approach Sky Harbor, I realized, wow, this is a good day. There's hardly any traffic. I bet I'm going to get a good parking spot at the airport. And then I kept approaching the airport, and there were these signs saying flights delayed. And then there were signs flashing saying flights canceled. I'm like, well, that seems weird. September weather in Phoenix, too much sun. And then as I approached the airport, I saw something that I hadn't seen before. National Guardsmen blocking access to Terminal 3, I believe it was. And so I stopped and stepped out, and I puffed myself up and said, hello, I'm a vice president at Arizona State University. What's going on here? And the man said politely, get back in your car. So I shrunk very quickly and got back in my car. And then he approached the car and he said, the airport is closed. And I looked at him strangely and I said, why? And he looked at me strangely like, what do you mean, why? And I said, so it's closed. And he says, it's closed for the foreseeable future, which was an ominous phrase, the foreseeable future. So I said, I just turned around and head back. And he said, yeah, go the opposite direction because it's a one-way. And then when you get to the curve, pull into the right-way streets. I'm like, okay. So I did that. And as I was pulling away, he said, and turn on your radio, idiot. And so I turned on my radio. And as I was driving back to Gilbert, I heard the news over the local, I think it was a CBS affiliate, of what had happened in New York and in DC. And I was stunned because you don't expect that to happen on US soil. Because frankly, the last time anything like that had really happened, so many of us weren't even alive. It was 1941. And I, as the son of a career military person and somebody who had worked around the military for quite a bit, I think I understood the implications. But I pulled into the house, called the people in North Carolina, because I didn't even have a cell phone back then. And there certainly weren't smartphones back then. And I said, I'm not going to be able to make it. To which they said, duh, idiot. There's an email saying we need to reschedule your visit. And I turned on the television, and I think I turned it on to CNN, and I began to watch the commentary of the shots of the plane hitting over and over and over again. And I sat there mesmerized because the implications of the loss of life were huge. But I began to also ponder the impact on the people, not just in the building, but surrounding the people in the building, and then surrounding the neighborhood, and then surrounding the city, which we unarguably describe as our best international city in the United States, right? With all due respect to my friends in Chicago, they call it Second City for a reason. This is the first city. And then to sort of ponder as I sat there going, I wonder how many people were in that building and in the adjacent buildings. And I wonder what's going to happen next. And I sat there till about 9 o'clock in the evening, so about 12 hours. And by the evening, there were stories already starting to come out, interviews of New Yorkers. And there became the second piece of the story. Not just the grief, the anger, the sense of loss, the profound sense of violation, the clear indications of what happens when acts of terrorism, or much later on when we go into war, the price that people pay. But by the evening, the stories started to come out of the heroism, the sacrifice of New Yorkers. And then another narrative started to emerge. The profound resiliency of the city and of the people of the city. Now, there's a few younger people out here, probably weren't even alive in 2001, and there's another group that's fairly young that has vague recollections of 2001. And it may seem odd for those of us of a certain age to constantly reflect back on something that happened more than 2 decades ago. But the reason why we commemorate this is not simply because of the loss. It's importantly about the loss. And it's not simply about the memory and the attachments that we had to the people that we lost and the experiences that we went through. And it's not simply to esteem and hold up those folks who were in and then were inspired by the events of 9/11 to join our military and to be deployed, however we feel about that policy, in the service of our country and in the defense of our country, and the many of our friends and neighbors and co-workers who went through tremendous trials and tribulations in the service of our country in places far away that most of us can't even point to on a map. It's all about that. But it's also, in a quiet way, a celebration of us. Because in those moments and in those days that followed, the best of us as New Yorkers emerged. We took that sense of anger and hurt and violation, and we twisted it and conflated it with that sense of resilience, and added heavy doses of empathy, compassion, mutual support, cooperation, and yes, heroism. And so I would love to only commemorate 9/11 and think about it in the best ways. That's an impossibility. But I would ask you, as we linger on the sense of loss, let's also linger on the things that we gained in the days after 9/11. The good things that we found in ourselves and our fellow citizens and in our neighbors. That deep well of compassion, that sense of self-sacrifice, that spirit of cooperation, that profound sense of humanity. And hold that dear and keep it close to your hearts and your minds. Because in those moments, that's the best of us as humans, that's the best of us as New Yorkers. So this is a momentous day as we look back. I would ask us, equally importantly, to cling to those positive things and use that as we look forward. Thank you for listening.
My name is Khadija Diallo. Today we gather here on this solemn occasion to remember and pay tribute to the lives lost on September 11th, 2001. As the student government president, I am deeply honored to stand before you representing our student body as we reflect on the tragic events of that fateful day. 23 years ago, our nation faced a devastating act of terrorism that shook us to our core. The world watched in disbelief as the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center crumbled. The Pentagon was attacked and Flight 93 crashed into field in Pennsylvania. In the aftermath of these horrific events, nearly 3,000 innocent lives were lost, and countless others were forever changed. For those of us who were too young to fully comprehend the gravity of that day when it occurred, it is essential that we remember and understand the significance of 9/11. It is our duty to ensure that the memory of those who perished is not forgotten, and that the lessons learned from that day continue to guide us towards a brighter future. One of the most remarkable aspects of 9/11 was the way our nation came together in the face of adversity. Regardless of our differences, we reunited as one, bound by a common purpose: to heal, to rebuild, protect the freedoms that make our nation exceptional. As students, we carry the torch of hope into the future. We have the power to shape a world where hatred, intolerance, and violence find no further grounds. In doing so, we honor the memory of those we lost on 9/11 and countless others who have suffered in its aftermath. Today, as we remember those who lost their lives, we also honor the countless acts of heroism displayed by first responders, firefighters, police officers, and ordinary citizens who risked everything to save others. They exemplify the spirit of selflessness and resilience that defines our nation. The legacy of 9/11 is not just one of tragedy, but also one of unity and resilience. It reminds us that even in our darkest hours, we find strength in our collective spirit and the values that define us as a nation. We must never forget the sacrifices made and the lessons learned on that day. As we move forward, let us continue to stand together as a community and as a nation to champion the values of freedom, tolerance, and inclusivity. Let us reject hatred, prejudice, and violence in all their forms and work tirelessly for a world where peace and understanding prevails. As we pay our respects, let us also renew our commitment to building a better future, one where the memory of 9/11 serves us as a constant reminder of our shared humanity and the enduring strength of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us this morning. That concludes the program. Thank you.